One of the foundations of Ninjago, and honestly one of the more important aspects of Ninjago, is the concept of the realms. We have had 17 realms confirmed within this franchise, and all of them serve their own unique purposes. They are the linchpin for many of Ninjago's stories, and especially in the modern era with Dragons Rising. Everything that we've seen over the last few years are a byproduct of the realms coming together to create the merged realms. It's honestly been such a fascinating thing to see, and it's been really fun to actually get to discover what all of these realms are over the last few years. But one of the most recent additions to the Realm catalogue is one that's left a lot of Ninjago fans scratching their heads, me included, and that is the land or the realm of Eternal Dawn. We have very little, if any, answers to do with this realm, and it does definitely seem to be set up as something that will be important in Dragons Rising moving forth. We have now had it somewhat briefly shown in Season 2 and 3, and we've seen more of what it's capable of in Season 4. So, with the information that we do have, we can actually speculate on what this realm truly actually is, because I think there is definitely more than meets the eye here, and we are truly in for a new mystery when it does come to a realm. So sit back, relax, and let me take you on a journey today. Let me talk to you about everything that we know about the land of Eternal Dawn, and my honest theory as to what this realm truly is, because I think we've been introduced to something here that is honestly one of the most powerful things we've ever seen in Ninjago. So let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about what this realm truly is. Now, the land of Eternal Dawn does have an official description, and it goes as such. Formerly known as the Realm of Eternal Dawn, was one of the realms before the merge and is now part of the merged lands. As the name suggests, it is a large plain-like land in constant sunrise, and produces metaphysical allusions to whatever anyone there may want. And that is one of the biggest aspects of the entirety of this realm. That is what makes this realm unique, metaphysical illusions. But I don't actually think that that description of what we see is fully true. Metaphysical illusions implies that we're seeing something that is not actually real, and to an extent it's not. But the thing is that we know for a fact that some of the things that we've seen over the course of Dragons Rising within this realm is real by all accounts. So before I go into what is truly real, let me actually tell you when we've seen this place. The first time we saw it was at the end of Season 1 Part 2, when Raz the Wolf Clan was teleported away from the Blood Moon ritual. Raz's master placed them within this land. It was very suspicious at the time, and definitely a lot of people wondering. We then saw it very briefly at the start of Season 2 Part 2, but that was basically the last we've seen in it for a very long time. It wasn't until the end of Season 3 where we actually got to see it again. When all of the ninja were split up and separated across the merged lands, we actually did get to see the new ninja team apart from Aaron actually pop out of this realm. And a lot of people immediately noted the fact that they had the exact same look as where the Wolf Clan and Raz was before. So people were assuming that we were finally going to get some answers as to what we were going to actually see there. And to an extent, like I said, we did. This leads us into Season 4, where we get to see the new ninja attempt to find their way out of this realm. They're in there for a few episodes, and eventually they do get their way out and find themselves in Umbra Sylvis. But, like I said, we've seen a lot of things during that time. So let's actually go back to what metaphysical illusions actually means here. Like I said, it implies that it's not real. It implies that the things that we are seeing is not actually things that are there. But in reality, they actually are. We definitely do see some things that don't seem to be real. For example, we get to see a scene of cats disappearing after they leave the sightline of the ninja. But the thing is that this realm is clearly placing things in, so it's very obvious that it's also placing things out of this metaphysical area. And the other major and dead giveaway that this is actual real things that are being put in front of the ninja is the fact that Frack remarks at pie being on plants. He eats the pie, he enjoys it, he notes that they're cold. The thing is that it's not a perfect pie like how it probably would be if it was meant to be the perfect illusion. It was some form of pie that was somewhat realistic, and when the ninja actually escaped this area, Frack doesn't remark at the fact that the pie was fake. He remarks at the fact that it simply shouldn't have been on a plant. That pie, by all account, was completely real. The water they were drinking was real. The grapple that Sora uses in that pit was also real as well. These are very real and very physical objects. I don't think that they should be classified as illusions. They seem to be very real matter being put in front of the ninja. So we have to consider this realm is capable of teleporting or synthesizing very real objects here. Which begs so many questions, because you realize that the only time we've ever necessarily seen something like this happen in Ninjago is when someone has the powers of creation. I'm not saying that this was the first Spinjitzu master, I'm saying that this is something at the level of the first Spinjitzu master, and we don't really get to see this a lot when it does come to the show, but we do actually get to see it at some point, but more on that later. Apart from the metaphysical objects, what else do we actually learn about the realm when the ninja are actually there? Well, the main thing is the fact that it seems to be that humans and Serpentine are completely susceptible to whatever this is, whereas Wildfire and Ryu, someone who is a dragon and someone who is raised by dragons, weren't susceptible to it. This realm did synthesize things in front of them to make them desire, but they didn't actually fall for it. So whatever the force or the power of this realm actually isn't actually able to work on someone who doesn't seem to have human desire. It seems to only work on someone who has wants and lust and needs. It is very strange that the dragons aren't affected by it. So it adds this extra layer of, well, if dragons aren't affected, what else isn't affected by it? Skulking? Demons? Oni? We don't really know the answer to that. It doesn't seem to be that Raz is necessarily affected by this force either, which is also very strange, and it does knock off the idea that it could potentially be Raz's master. If it was Raz's master in control of this realm and was catering to desire, I feel like Raz would have been much further along with his plan by now. I also just don't think we would have ever seen the Shadow Dojo there to begin with. So I do think it knocks him off at least, but it also does show that there are other beings that aren't susceptible to this case of desire. It is a really interesting little tidbit, because it only does seem to work on humans and serpents. But the last thing we know is the fact that as soon as you do leave this space, the effects of it do wear off. As soon as Sora and Frack were outside of this space, they acknowledged the fact that it was weird, it didn't make sense, there was no logic to it. So whatever this realm is, it doesn't hold power outside of its realm. So we have to take into note that it doesn't seem to be a being that would be able to stretch out way beyond the stretch of the merged land, which again also does knock off Raz's master, because he does teleport the Shadow Dojo away from the wildness. So again, just knocking off the fact that it could possibly be them. I really don't think it's going to be, but again, I do feel like that's going to be the conclusion that a lot of people take to. But with all of these factors in mind, it just leaves you with burning questions of what actually is this realm, and that is ultimately the question that I feel like has been answered here. There are all these little aspects to it that I do feel like leads to one particular answer, and I don't necessarily like it, but it does seem to be the only one that makes sense, and that is that this realm is sentient. Sentient realms are something that we aren't a stranger to. We have the Preeminent, and we also do have Lee. We have two other realms that are accounted for in this moment. I will say, I do think it's a bit odd that there would be 3 sentient realms. Typically speaking, all the realms do have a sister realm that is the opposite in some capacity. So maybe one of the realms that we don't know of is also a sentient realm, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case. But it does seem to be that all the evidence is leading back to the idea that this realm does have some form of sentience. Remember earlier when I said that we've seen before power not quite at the level of the Spinjitzu Master or creation, but very near to it? Well, I'm referring to sentient realms. The Preeminent and Lee have demonstrated a very great deal of power. Honestly, power kind of beyond our imagining. But the thing that is also important to note is that their power was only good within the confines of their own realms, which is very much the same thing that we are seeing here. It's also the only way to explain away why we get to see all of these manifestations of food, water, rocks, grapples, all of these items that just simply can't exist unless someone was placing them there. So it would have made sense that we would have seen some sort of physical manifestation if it was a person actually doing it. But like I said, instead, we're seeing it all basically come from the realm within itself, again implying that there's some form of sentience here. The last way this sentience idea could explain things away is also the fact that this realm possibly has only ever had certain travelers go through it. Maybe this realm has become adept to actually catering to the human desire and the serpentine desire. Maybe we haven't actually seen dragons make their way through these realms before, and that is why Wildfire and Ryu are not susceptible to whatever this realm is actually up to. It would be a good way of explaining it away, and would also keep in line with the sentience theory. If it is a realm and it's never seen these type of species before, it would make sense to believe that it wouldn't be able to do so. But I think all of this is to say that regardless on whether or not you believe my theory or not, because I could always be wrong, I do think it does make a lot of sense to believe that there is something more going on with this realm. There is some sort of power there that we don't truly comprehend. There is truly some sort of ability that we actually do need to understand, and I do think we will in the future, because like I said, they very clearly set up the fact that we're going to see it again, and we even see the ninja note what even was that realm to begin with. There is so many more questions when it does come to it that I do think will be answered in the future. But as of now, and as of with the evidence that we have, I truly do believe that this realm is sentient. I believe that there's something going on, and I think the realm is very much aware of it. And it's the only way I could see them explain away what this place truly is. But I would love to know now, what do you think of this theory? Do you like the idea that this is another sentient realm, or would you rather it be something else? Would you rather it be not explained at all? I'm very curious to know what you guys think of it, because it has been bothering me since the release of the season. But honestly, I don't really see any other scenario unless we get some new evidence in the future. So I do find myself fairly comfy with this theory in mind. But apart from all of that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of you, your support means the absolute world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. But like I said, that is about it for today, and take care. Okay,